Tonight we put the spotlight on an issue very close to you, your fuel price bills. And yes, some of you must be enraged and rather worried about why are you paying exactly the same amount that you did in 2014 when global oil prices were actually about $100 a barrel, and that has now halved. Has deregulation really cheated you? Has the government cornered the profits via taxes, and should it act now and slash those taxes? Yes, that's of course one part of the story, but as an Indian you also need to know the other part. We import nearly all our fuel from overseas, and so it won't be possible to pass on all the benefits even though the government may want to. The government taxes because it needs money for infrastructure, for building roads, ports, highways, for putting money in good healthcare and also in good education. At least that's what the idea is. But there is a lot of clamour, and that raises the big question that once the decision to deregulate fuel has been taken, should the government at all come back to intervene once again? Or should it let the market decide fuel prices? Crude realities is the big debate right here on the India Development Debate this evening on ET Now. And to rise with India, you the viewer must hear both sides of the story. I'm Supriya Srinath. Let's take this straight across to Ruchi Bhatia, who got us details from the Finance Ministry earlier today. And what exactly is the ministry planning to do at this stage? Are they worried about inflation, and as a result, will OMCs now have to bear the cost?
Because the global crude oil prices has tested the government's resolve on the deregulation of fuel prices. The retail prices are at a 3-year high, and if you look at the component, excise and VAT contribute almost 50% of the current prices that we have seen. So what next now? In case the prices rise even further, the government believes that consumers will have, this price hike cannot be passed on to the consumers because of the current inflation scenario. And the government is also not willing to let go of the windfall that they once got from the hike in excise duty. So we understand that any sort of a rollback on excise is completely ruled out, and which inadvertently puts the spot on OMCs. We in fact are given to understand that OMCs may be asked to take some sort of a hit on their books in case prices go up even further, and this of course puts a big question on the government's deregulation intent.
Thank you very much, Ruchi Bhatia, for putting it all in perspective as far as the Finance Ministry, the fiscal implications of that move is concerned. But we've got a power-packed panel right here on ET Now to take it forward. We've got Mr. S.C. Tripathi, former Oil Secretary, Naren Taneja, spokesperson of the BJP, Sanjay Jha, National Spokesperson of the Congress Party, and R.S. Sharma, former CMD of ONGC. Thanks each one of you for being with us. And before I take it across to the political stakeholders of this debate, I do want to put it in context. What exactly are we debating? And numbers on your screen will really tell you the story. In 2014, you were paying exactly the same price for every litre of petrol that you're paying right now, even though crude oil prices were then at about $80 to $100 per barrel mark. It is now between $46 to $50 a barrel mark. So why the anomaly? Why has that happened? Even though deregulation meant that benefits will be passed down, why has it not been passed on? I'm going to take it across to R.S. Sharma, a man who's been a part of the oil industry. Mr. Sharma, I agree my fuel bill is exactly what it was 3 years back, despite crude being halved. But deregulation is also a reality, and my government, whether it was this government or the previous government, did take a conscious policy decision to bring it about for its, for its positive benefits on the fiscal side. Why should the government now talk about intervention? Is it just because there's a public outcry of sorts on prices?
See, obviously it is known that PSUs, they are government-owned companies, and we know it is a fact. This deregulation was approved by the cabinet in March 2002. But we know thereafter constantly the government has been intervening about fixing the product prices, about the subsidy, the issues, about the under recoveries, about the discounts to be given by upstream companies. So that is continuing, and now they say that total deregulation has been done. But we know for sure that wherever needed, the government has been intervening. And the issue of this constant doses of increase in the excise and VAT. So if that's the thing, so how come these the companies, they can use their own discretion to fix the prices. So whatever is the input cost coming, so as per the formulation, they fix up the price. But in the process, one who is at loss is the consumer.
Okay, I'm glad you're being candid there, and I'm saying at least, there was a farce of deregulation of sorts, and the only person who's at loss at this point in time is the Indian consumer. Mr. Tripathi, I'm going to ask a direct question to you. Crude oil is down to about $46 to $50 a barrel on an average. It was at $80 to $100 a barrel in 2014. The rupee to the dollar parity from 62 to 60 is about at 64, around the same level. And still, I'm paying 79 rupees for every litre of petrol that I'm buying. As a consumer, and I know there is a larger story to this, there is a fiscal story, and I'm going to take it up with stakeholders here. But as a consumer, who am I supposed to blame? Mr. Sharma spoke about constant dosage of increase in excise duty. He also spoke about government intervening when it felt the need to do so. I thought there was a deregulation, and I should have actually not been paying as much for fuel.
You see, deregulation is not new. In theory, deregulation was announced from 1st of April 2002, but then government started intervening from 2004 onwards when the crude oil prices started increasing. But lately, and in fact not in present government, in the previous UPA government itself, they announced deregulation of prices first for petrol and somewhere around 2013 even for diesel. So to say that deregulation has increased the prices is wrong. In 2013 end, both as you mentioned, the rupee was weaker than what it is now. It was about 65, 66 to a dollar. Now it is 63, 64 to a dollar. And the crude oil prices were touching $100. Now I'll give you a very a rough estimate. Right. If it is $50 to a barrel, the price of crude oil will come to about 18 to 20 rupees to a liter. And more than 25% is not the cost of conversion. In fact, the new refineries can do it in 15%. So the price of diesel, petrol, in fact, the cost of diesel, petrol and kerosene will be in the range of about 25 rupees to a liter. So from 25 rupees, anything higher, which is 70 rupees or 80 rupees, is a distribution margin, dealer's commission, which again is not very high, but certainly it has been increased over a period of time. And mostly it is taxes. There is 130% tax on petrol and about 90% tax on diesel. So the taxes have been a major constituent of the price, and also since last 2 to 3 months, when the companies started adjusting prices every day, right, they have been taking it only at a higher level and not bringing it down. So that has also increased the price by about 5 to 6 rupees right per liter.
Right. You put the maths into this entire argument, and Mr. Taneja, you're wearing two hats today. You're wearing a hat of a spokesperson of the ruling party, but you're also an energy expert in your own right. And so I'm going to ask you to wear both those hats and answer my question, which is a responsible question that comes your way. I'm batting for both sides. I'm batting for the consumer who's lost out when crude prices are low, but I'm also batting for the Indian economy, which perhaps needs the money that the government is making via taxation on petroleum. Because if the taxes were so high, consumption would have been dented very sharply. That has not happened. But I will still ask you the question. I have every right to be disappointed, don't I? And do I blame the government for this? 130% taxation on petrol and 90% taxation on diesel.
Well, there are three sides of the story. Number one, of course, OMC companies, their economics, including freight, imports and everything. The second is central government, and third is state government. So we have to basically, look at all these three major players, and we can look at them in silos. We can look at them in a more composite way. Depends on us. But the question is that, when you look at OMC, they have been, petrol is decontrolled, diesel is decontrolled. Petrol was decontrolled by the Congress government. Decision to decontrol was taken by the Congress, but implemented by us when we came to power. And it's not just possible for the government to intervene or to influence these companies on a daily basis. That's out of question. Even today, our petroleum minister ruled that out. Now the question is that when you look at the construct of the whole thing, yes, central government in terms of excise and all that, makes money on that, and the state governments also. But when you look at the will of our government, plan of our government is very clear. We have already amended the constitution in order to bring petroleum products under the GST, and we have almost pleaded with various states ruled by different political parties that please let us bring all petroleum products under GST, because GST alone can deliver a kind of construct in terms of taxes, the prices and everything, you know, which would basically explain everything. Number two, very quick point. At the same time, when you look at traditionally, you know, Indian government, state governments have been heavily dependent on petroleum products for their revenue, not on India, practically across the world, minus a few countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran and a few others.
Right. Okay, I get your point there, but I actually also read, I mean, I am never given into conspiracy theories. I don't know if this entire debate is about getting petroleum and the GST sooner than it was envisaged, but I'm going to come and touch upon that point also a little later in the show. Let me preempt what Sanjay Jha is going to say. And Sanjay, you will pardon me for taking a few liberties here. I'm sure you'll turn around and tell me this is an anti-people government. They have increased prices. You kept prices under check. They don't care about the consumer. But let me ask you this question. They kept raising taxes. They should have brought down taxes. 52% of costs that we pay at the fuel pumps are made up of taxes. I concede that. But is it possible at all in a country like India, where we import nearly almost all our fuel requirement, to pass on the benefits entirely?
Supriya, I'll try and answer you without any political rhetoric whatsoever. Let's go purely on data and purely on facts. Fact number one, Supriya, you know, you started by saying that the prices of petrol and diesel are almost the same. They are not. The price of crude oil, if I take the crude oil price around exactly the time that Mr. Modi became Prime Minister, it was around $108 a barrel. It is down to $52 a barrel. It touched $25 a barrel, but I'm not going to take the bottommost barrel price for comparison purposes. The price of petrol today is around 79, and in May it was 71, May of 2014. So in 3 years, when the global crude oil price is down by 52%, the common man, the consumer who is watching this program, is paying more today than he paid 3 years ago. And the crude oil price is down by 52%. On diesel, by the way, he is paying around 62, and the price then was around rupees 55. Now, what does it tell you? That the government of the day has perpetrated a massive fraud on the people of India. You know why? Because they want to satisfy the global credit rating agencies. They want to please the Morgan Stanleys and the Goldman Sachs of the world, that, you know what, Mr. Jaitley is going to announce a fiscal deficit, which they will say we have managed to control. But you know what they have done? Just one last point. Let me tell you, the fiscal deficit argument is a ridiculous argument, because the logic is that end of day petroleum tax, which is an inelastic commodity, it's an essential commodity, it is basically something that nobody can do without, becomes a regressive tax. If this government had to really care for the common people of India, they should have found a direct tax option, which they don't want to do. So this is a daylight fraud on the people of India, and Mr. Modi's government is responsible for lying to 125 crore people.
You promised me you're not going to make this partisan, but you're going ahead and making this partisan. Why are you going back on your word? But Dr. Taneja, let me get you in here. I think it's a valid point
it's a fact.
Sanjay Jha,
but I've argued that on facts and data.
I get that. Sanjay, I'm not going to let you intervene. Just hold your horses there. Dr. Taneja, Sanjay Jha says this is broad daylight robbery. And I'll tell you why the Congress party is saying that, and they will start making this a political issue soon. Because taxes have gone up. Do you believe your government has the elbow room to slash rates? I know it's been denied by the petroleum minister earlier today, and he said there's no question of rolling back. But is there a case at all to give some kind of a comfort by reducing taxes? Or do you believe there is no elbow room whatsoever?
Number one, you talked about, Congress spokesperson talked about the robbery. This is the word they love. They love robbery. That's what they did at entire UP 1, UP 2. Well, coming to the point. You see, first of all, I think it's a mistake to compare. You see, price of petroleum product or petrol, let's say for the sake of discussion in Delhi, is not calculated on the basis of crude. It's calculated on the basis of price of petrol, the global price. It's a different commodity, different animal when it comes to business. That's how it is done. And we didn't do that. That was put in place when Congress was in power. The formula was put in place by the Congress party, not by us.
Can I respond
Number
to
two,
that?
when it comes to this thing, your money that
Can I
has come, when
respond to
the
that?
oil
Yes.
crude
Brazen
prices
lie.
have been low, petrol
We'll
prices
come to
have
you.
been
Wait.
low, money that has come to the center, that money, 42% of that is going to the states all the time on real-time basis. Second, this money is being used for infrastructure and for different welfare schemes. That's the money, and there is absolute transparency about it. And the taxes being collected by all states, including Congress-ruled Punjab and Karnataka, are no different. If they really want to preach, why don't they actually abolish sales and VAT in Punjab and Karnataka first, then come on ETTV and let us debate.
Let me answer him.
That's ET now. That's no, 1 second.
Yeah, I'll answer you. I'll answer you, Dr.
Owned and
Taneja.
operated by the Times Group.
No,
Sanjay Jha, Sanjay Jha, go ahead. I think there's a valid point that Dr. Taneja is making. If you have issues with taxation, why are your state governments charging such high rates of tax? Why doesn't the Punjab lower taxes?
Well, let me tell you, that's another deceptive statement and totally misleading. Look at the tax structure. The state's value-added taxes have more or less been consistent. It's a central government using excise duties that has actually fleeced the common consumer. And that is the reality that he's dodging from. And let me tell you, Supriya, why this debate is very crucial. Because end of day, I think the people of India have a right to know that how is this government making a statement that there should be no distortion with global pricing. So we should completely decontrol. Fair enough. Well, in that case, if the international price of oil is falling, how can you be increasing taxes and making your retail consumer pay more? Because you have a dealer commission, you have an oil marketing commission, you have a state VAT, and you have a central government excise duty, which is absolutly exorbitant. So this government is essentially fleecing the common man, shoring up his fiscal deficit because Mr. Jaitley wants to be a hero before global investors. The short truth is Mr. Jaitley and this government wants a pink paper headline. He's not bothered about what happens to the common man.
Sanjay Jha,
the common man is not supposed to
I think you're
know
making an
how he's being
irresponsible
robbed,
statement.
both in the morning,
Sanjay
day
Jha,
and night.
You listen to me. No, you listen to me, please. No, I will intervene there because I think
how
when
is
you
it
say Mr.
irresponsible?
Jaitley wants
Tell
to
me.
be a hero. Why?
Sure.
I'll tell you why. Mr. Jaitley may want to be a hero, but what about Amarinder Singh? Why is he not reducing prices?
Why?
That's an irresponsible statement. But I will come back. I will come back and touch upon the politics of this. I will come back and touch upon the politics of this. But I will ask a big picture question. And Mr. Tripathi, if I may ask you, this entire clamor of taxes and, arguments being made, people in finance talking, people in petroleum talking, is this all a big conspiracy to get petroleum under the GST, which is a good thing? As at ET now, we support GST. Is it all paving the road for petroleum to get under the GST sooner than one had envisaged?
Conspiracy part, but yes, when the GST has been introduced, sooner or later petroleum products must come in GST. If they come under GST, then at least there will not be a double taxation. Right now, after the cost and other margins are taken, then the excise duty is imposed, and thereafter, with the excise duty imposed, there is VAT imposed. So there is a tax on tax, and it's a very heavy tax. As it is, I said, excise duty is quite heavy, and thereafter the VAT also imposed by the state governments is very heavy, because both the central government and the state government, for them, petroleum products are the milk cow. It's the easiest to tax and collect the tax from 6-7 companies. Central government collects more than 2,50,000 crores. State governments collect about 150,000 crores. So such a large amount being collected so easily, they don't want to let it go. But yes, if they are interested in the welfare of the consumers and the customers, then it should be brought under GST. And also, there is another point I would like to say. There is a regulatory authority for petroleum and natural gas, and that has been there for last more than 10 years. But the petroleum products have not yet been notified for that. Let that regulatory authority also see that there is no profiteering and there is proper competition.
Very good point. Very good points on the table. Dr. Taneja, respond to that, and I will urge you to wear both your hats right now, because there are two questions. Why not get the regulator to decide on tariffs and prices? Why are you doing this yourself? Why are you letting OMCs profiteer if they are indeed doing that? And the second question, do you as a part of the government today regret the decision that you bowed down on petroleum? You compromised on not putting petroleum under the GST because it's coming back to bite you now, and you would want to do it sooner than later?
No, 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 not at all. On the contrary, in fact, the central government was very keen. And the finance minister on his own record, even today, petroleum minister was talking about it, almost pleading. We are very keen. That's why we amended the constitution. So we are ready. We wouldn't need to go to parliament for that. The government, central government is very keen. BJP government is keen. The question is that the various state government, they are the one who are, they say we are not ready yet. But I think this probably would lead to a kind of, movement, and state government would come on board. To answer the second part of your question is, my personal opinion, to bring it under ministry is already there. Petrol is decontrolled, diesel is decontrolled. What we need, more decontrolled, more autonomy for these companies and more competition. Let private sector companies, other companies or those states also, let them chip in and come and import, whatever they can import, and let there be competition. I think what we need is not another regulator, as Mr. Tripathi, I'm against it. Why do we need such a body at all? I mean, what we need is basically, the government is there, the ministry is there. And what we need basically is more competition. I think it's only competition which will bring the prices down and bring economic justice to the consumer. We need more competition. Second aspect, which is very important at the same time, when it comes to the overall pricing, it's important there is better communication so that people understand the economics of the petroleum products and is better explained. And that's a job which companies, including private sector, they should take upon themselves and explain to the people, because invariably every single person is still think the price per petrol must be based on price of crude, which is not the fact.
Right. Sanjay Jha, I want you to respond to this. If you say that Congress is a responsible opposition and we have these plethora of taxes which are perhaps a little opaque, and which is why, as a consumer, I feel I'm being taxed too much. Why don't you get petroleum under the GST? Will the Congress party support getting petroleum under the GST? Because contrary to what Dr. Taneja says, I think there was too much of compromise made and you gave in to let the GST through. You should have stuck your ground. You should have put your foot in the door there and said, we will not let the GST happen until unless petroleum is not included. But will the Congress play ball? Will the Congress agree to putting the petroleum under the GST now?
Supriya, there are two parts to that answer, but it's very important for your viewers to know that if Mr. Modi's government had linked the market price of the retail petroleum products to the international oil price, I have got the numbers with me, we have done our homework, the price of diesel would have been approximately rupees 29 and the price of petrol would have been 37. So the Indian consumer is paying double the price today thanks to Mr. Modi's government. Point number two, a valid question. You will go back to what the Congress party repeatedly said. This was a big old tamasha that they did with the GST in the Parliament Hall with Tryst with Destiny and all the marketing razzmatazz. We told them, for God's sake, do your homework. It's not just about petroleum products, it's about real estate, it's about alcohol, it's about electricity. And by the way, we have been on record, and this is the reason why you're having a problem with the GST. I didn't interrupt you. Taneja ji, I didn't interrupt you. Taneja ji, I didn't interrupt you. I have an answer for that. I have an answer for that. We didn't support it. We did not support it. The reason why, you are lying. You are the Mahachor boss, not me. You are the Mahachor.
No, I'm not.
You are the Mahachor. You are the biggest liars.
Who's lying or not? I think there's a lie on both sides of this table. No, 1 second. Sanjay Jha and Naren Taneja, you cannot get into this mudslinging right now.
Supriya.
No, I'm sorry.
I haven't finished my statement.
Yes, go ahead and you have 10 seconds.
So you tell him to stop, otherwise I will call him a liar. So, let me finish.
Okay, no, nobody's calling each other a liar. This isn't a nursery class.
The truth is the GST.
Go ahead, quickly finish your point.
Absolutely. The GST was hurried, the GST wasn't given a trial. This is not the one nation, one tax original architecture of the GST that the Congress party prepared. This is a mockery of the GST in India. Can you imagine you have 8 slabs of rates? You have 8. We supported the constitutional amendment as far as the GST Council is concerned. I think the truth that he's hiding is if the majority of the states support it, it goes through the council. A couple of states opposing it will not make any difference whatsoever. That is the ground reality that he's dodging from your viewers. The truth is this government has lied on demonetization, lied on GST and is lying on crude oil prices.
I will have to end this discussion, but I'm going to get a more sane expert voice to this discussion. And S.C. Tripathi, let me ask you this question. In a written response to the Parliament, Santosh Gangwar, who was then Minister of State for Finance, very categorically said that under-recoveries have gone down from 1.5 lakh crore rupees in fiscal year 14 to 27,000 crore rupees in fiscal year 16. And if you actually look at the numbers that I have with me right here, the government has made quite a, has at least tidied up the books, the financial books of itself and also the OMCs. The under-recoveries have gone down. The kind of money that the government is getting from these products has gone up. Do you believe that's a compromise that Indians also need to understand and make? Our fiscal realities will not permit us to pay $29 to $37 rupees per litre of diesel. The economic realities in our country are that you will have to perhaps pay 79 for petrol and, a higher price for diesel.
Well, the under-recoveries for last several years have not been on account of petrol and diesel, as has been admitted by both the other panelists. Petrol, there have been no under-recoveries for last 5-6 years, and diesel also for last 3-4 years. Under-recoveries have been on LPG and kerosene, and they have also come down very significantly, and they are being dealt with separately. So, at this point of time, therefore, under-recoveries at this level of crude prices are not important at all. Second point, the petrol prices are, of course, it's a technical point linked to the international petrol prices, right, but they move along with the crude oil prices. The crack spread, there will be some variation here and there, but by and large, they follow the crude oil prices. So, therefore, the petrol prices should follow the crude oil prices. That is a short point. Exactly. Next point, yes, we at the moment, as I mentioned, 250,000 crores of rupees collected from petroleum products by central government, about 125 to 150,000 crores collected by the state government. They find it very convenient and easy to collect from 6-7 companies. They don't have to work for it. Such a large amount they are not able to collect from anywhere else. Now that the GST has been implemented, they should be able to widen the tax base. Look at our neighboring countries. None of them has this incidence of taxes. Therefore, they should make it moderate, bring it under GST, so that if it is not 79, let it be between 50 and 60 rupees petrol and around 50 rupees diesel. That will be a moderate price for Indian economy.
Okay, so clearly the truth does lie somewhere in between. The truth doesn't lie with the consumers of India who may be clamoring for a petrol price cut. The truth also doesn't lie with the government who says we cannot help but tax fuel. These are easy cows to be milked, and that's exactly what's happening. But the truth somewhere lies in the middle, and as an Indian you need to understand perhaps you have to bear the cost of higher fuel, but getting it under the GST is the best way out. It is going to do away with the plethora of taxation. It is also going to do away with the complicated tax structures that states and central government do imply on fuel. But on that note, thank you very much for being with us on this edition of the India Development Debate. The crude realities is what we've discussed. We do hope to find solutions right here on this channel, ET Now. Thank you very much for being with us.